I've been building some custom gear for the World Cup series, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I pulled it off using the TOOCAA Nova laser cutter. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So you may have seen in the last video that right back here I had something orange and white and a little different than usual. What's up with that? So the company that sponsored today's video by sending over this guy is TOOCAA. TOOCAA is a laser company. They've been around for a few years. They've got a couple of models under their belt at this point. And they brought out a new desktop multifunction printer that is really meant for hobbyists, builders, somebody who needs something that's going to be simple, relatively small, safe, and quiet enough that you can run it in an office. Now, when they reached out to me, it wasn't necessarily something that directly impacted the channel. We usually do batteries and solar stuff around here, but I do have a project where I needed a laser engraver so that I could engrave a working panel for the back of a speaker that I'm working on repairing right now. Now, I do have a laser cutter. In fact, I had pulled it out about 3 days before TOOCAA reached out to me. It's one of those old gantry style laser cutters that didn't have any kind of protective cover over it. It hasn't been used in about 3 years because frankly it scares the crap out of me. If you don't know, the lasers inside of these things, they go between usually 5 and 80 watts, and just the reflection off of something that you're laser engraving, if it comes in and hits your eye, could blind you permanently. I'm not willing to do that. If I get any lasers near my eyes, it's going to be done by a doctor, and probably a long time from now when they kind of get that working a little bit better. But for lasers like this, you really want something that has an enclosure if you're going to be using it near anyone. Now, when it was just me and I had my laser cutter on the back porch, I could easily have it covered and stay far enough away from it that I was safe. But if I had my maybe animals outside, if one of the cats came to hang out, I then have to worry about potentially them getting a reflection and causing permanent damage there. So again, it was a risk that was just too much for me. And ultimately led to me not using the unit for a very long time. So when I was bringing it out to work on this project, I wasn't exactly excited about it, but it was going to do it. TOOCAA reached out a couple days later and I said, forget that. I put my laser cutter back over here underneath the CNC and put theirs into use right away. Because of the timing around this video, one of the themes that they suggested was going to be something FIFA themed. We do have the World Cup that's going on here currently in North America. And so I obliged and put together a few different projects and just wanted to kind of show them off today, show what this thing can do. And then I'll, of course, in the future be able to use it in some of my own projects to kind of show you all what something like this can be used for as a tool and not necessarily just a toy. Now, TOOCAA sent over to me their full creators bundle, which included the laser cutter itself with a 20-watt diode, a rotary tool that allows you to engrave on round objects, an air assist, which pumps air over the laser nozzle to make sure that smoke and things like that don't, one, affect your laser module, and two, end up getting or staining your workpieces. And this thing really is an all-in-one solution. They have one package higher than that, which includes an air purifier unit. I'll show a picture of it right over here. I didn't get that. Luckily enough for me, because I have a vent for my AC already running out into the outside of the workshop, I was able to just kind of tap their hose right into that, and it pushes all of the smoke out there. Now, the first thing that surprised me about this thing when I got it up and running was just how powerful it was. I'm used to a 10-watt laser, which really was a 10 total watts for the unit and used about a 2 to 5-watt laser, actual laser module itself. And that was really good for marking, and it would cut through some basic wood if you did enough passes around. This thing can cut up to 1/4 inch of basswood all in one pass. I was working with all 1/8 inch stuff, but I was able to not only get stuff cut in one pass, but it was doing it very quickly. We're talking 3,000 millimeters per second speeds, which if you're akin to 3D printing, you know that's stupid fast. And I was able to get a project like this done in one evening, even though it required multiple cuts across multiple sheets and then piecing everything together a little tediously. Now within their creator bundle, they sent me over a couple pieces of their basswood as well. This is just some basic project wood. It's 1/8 inch thick. It does have color lamination on both sides, which made it real nice and easy to make some colored projects. I made a couple others that I don't have here in the workshop because I've already given them away. Sticking with the World Cup theme, I came up with this design here with a little bit of help from a AI assistant, and I know there's going to be some of you that have your thoughts on that, and feel free to leave them in the comments. I don't have the money to hire somebody to make something like this for me, so I had to do what I had to do. It did require quite a bit of human interaction because it made up the design, but then I had to cut it out. And I'm going to show in the software here in just a moment what that looks like as far as the project file itself. Now, the project's broken down into, in my case, I made it multiple layers and just color coded them based on the color of the wood that I wanted to actually capture. And based on that, I was able to make this design out of multiple pieces of different colored wood. So I had the laser engrave the soccer ball or football that you see here in the sensor. It actually is currently press fit into these other pieces. It is actually free floating, and I can take this piece out independently of everything else. That's how precise this ended up getting, is that I was able to just press or friction fit that in there, which was pretty impressive. Other than that, it has some homages to US, Canada, and Mexico, where the FIFA World Cup 2026 is being held. That actually starts, the first US game is as of the 12th, which will be either today or yesterday, depending on how quick I get this out. But we've got homages to each of the countries here, and I thought it was kind of a nifty little design. Something that was neat to be able to just see what this unit could do, because we have a lot of intricate detail here, like the pips on the cacti, the stars on the flag here. Those were very, very intricate, cut out very, very well, and again, nice and precise machine. One of the neatest things about this machine is that it gives you the capability of cutting out designs using the camera built into the lid, which then allows you to track where you're placing your designs as you're putting them in there. It has an auto calibration feature, which I did have to run the first time. I tried to run a print, or rather a cut. I'm used to 3D printing, so it's a little off for me. I went to run a cut without calibrating the sensor first, and it did not come out right. It was in the wrong place. It cut out properly, but it didn't show up on the piece where I wanted it to. Once you run that calibration, though, it allows you to really get full use out of your work pieces, because then you can run a design right here in the middle like I did, and then realize, hey, I've still got a lot of space over on the side here. Let's go ahead and cut out some additional pieces for this. Now, you'll see this design here in the middle. That was something that I actually made for my neighbor. I'm going to show that off in a short a little bit later, but cool to have awesome neighbors, and I wanted to give something back to them when they gave something back to us. So really neat here. Again, because of that air assist, you don't have any kind of scorching or anything like that on the front side of this print. They did also, one of the things in their kind of product manual that they harp on a lot is the air filtration system that they have built into this. Not only does it pull air out of the top of the unit, but it actually has slats in the bottom grill, and it pulls air along the bottom of the unit as well. So because of that, it also reduces, it didn't completely eliminate, but it does reduce a lot of the searing that you would get on the back side of your prints, or, sorry, cuts as well. So you'll see here that I have a little bit of soot coming off of here, and then there are some areas where the wood itself had some sap or something that came out. So you will still get a little, but much, much cleaner than what I would normally expect to see on a desktop engraver like this. Now, one other project that I knocked out just because I wanted to see if it could do it, and being that it's 20 watts, it was more than capable, were some slate coasters. Now, these slate coasters, they use the same design essentially as what I have on my plaque here. I just simplified it quite a bit to make it a easier run. I first did some test patterns on some other slate pieces just to see what would actually stick, what would show up whenever it was sanded down or whenever it had some use on it, and saw that this printer can do everything from a very light coating all the way to actually melting the slate, causing it to bubble up and almost boil, which really gives you a neat 3D effect and something that you can run your hand over and feel. And that's what I ran on these coasters. I did run a coating of clear coat over them first, just to make it pop a little bit more as far as the design goes. but I've got my soccer ball here as well as our FIFA 2026 and the 3 representing countries. So I was able to make a full set of coasters here because this is not a flammable type of material to cut. These I actually let run overnight because I was running them at a slower speed while running at a 100% laser output, just to make sure that I could get a real deep engraving. Again, something you can really run your hands over, and these turned out fantastic. Even when they're wet, you can still see the full design. It does have that coating of lacquer over the top as well, just to make sure that they don't end up degrading or falling apart or crumbling, because these type of coasters, they can do that if they're left untreated. Now, last but not least with this guy was something that I kept reading was not possible, and that's engraving stainless steel. Now, there's ways to do it. You can put a coating over the stainless steel, which will allow it to then heat up enough, allow the laser rather to heat it up enough to make a permanent marking. And what that does is it actually kind of bakes whatever paint or whatever coating you use into the stainless steel itself and makes it a permanent fixture. I was going to try that, but just ran into some issues with the paint that I was trying to use. I wasn't getting a smooth, consistent coating, and decided I just wanted to try stainless because everybody says it can't be done on a 20-watt diode laser, but I wanted to see. And this thing blew me away. Now, this is an 18/8 stainless steel cup. I bought it from the Harbor Freight. I know all of you have your opinions about Harbor Freight. Personally, you can keep them to yourself. I like Harbor Freight. I'm going to keep shopping there. This guy was $4.99, didn't cost almost anything, came with a lid, pretty nifty. The thing that impressed the crap out of me though was what this laser did to this mug. Now, software aside, I do have some issues and that I'll get to here in just a moment with how the software is set up and some of their safety features that they embedded in here. Software aside, this thing kicks butt, and I've never seen a diode laser be able to do this. Now, this is not just a rub it off coating. This is a deeply engraved World Cup 2026 logo that I made. When I say deeply, I mean you can see the ridges on here. You can physically see where on the parts where it burnt off, it's actually deep, and you can run a fingernail and it gets caught. This is not a surface coating. I've already sanded this down to make sure that it wasn't just going to come off. And if you saw what just happened there, that was my fingernail coming off on the metal. That wasn't the metal coming off. I've never seen a diode that can do this at only 20 watts. Generally, you're talking 40, 80 watts to be able to get a blue laser to do something like this, or you're working with an infrared diode. Now, TOOCAA does have, they sell an infrared laser module, and I'll show here what it looks like to take the module on and off. It's actually really neat. It's hot swappable, and you can swap it out for a couple of different modules that they offer. They do offer an infrared module, and infrared modules, they cannot cut on wood, but they can cut an impression into direct flat metal. Somehow, this thing, I let it run for 3 hours. It took a while to get this deep. It wasn't something that was super fast, but it engraved directly into this stainless steel. Now, some of you out there in the comments may be able to tell me what happened here. Personally, I believe what happened is the first pass put a layer of soot over the unit, and then the second, third, fourth, and fifth pass just allowed that soot to heat up enough to bake it into the actual stainless here. It is impressioned. It is deep. I could fill these with paint and it would probably still turn out pretty decent. But that just didn't make any sense to me. If this was the IR laser, sure, that could go ahead and over 5 or 6 passes at 100%, that would be able to easily do something like this. But for this unit to be able to engrave on stainless steel, I don't know what's going on here. TOOCAA, get at me if you've got any idea of what could have happened here. I'm at a loss. This thing is awesome. There are limitations that I'm going to, first off, is going to be the size of the cuts. Now, this unit is made to cut an A4 type piece of paper, and that's approximately 8.5 by 11 inches. I'll put up the millimeters right over here because that's what they actually advertise it as. And that's approximately this size. It doesn't have a lot of Z depth, so it's not going to be able to cut very thick items, and unfortunately it's also not going to be able to engrave very thick items. You can remove those bottom slats and get some engraving done on thicker items than this. You can probably go up to about an inch, 1.5 to 2 inches at the max. but anything larger than that, unfortunately, is not going to fit on this unit. I came across that because I bought some glass pieces that I wanted to engrave on this unit. I went ahead and put a coating on them so that they would be able to, and unfortunately, I can't get this to fit under the laser no matter what I do. There's been a couple of reviews that I've seen out there where people said you could remove the bottom, which you absolutely can, and then engrave something larger than the footprint will allow. That unfortunately is not true. There is a sensor on that bottom plate, and if it's not laid into the unit, it will refuse to print. So I reached out to TOOCAA, said, hey, is there any way to do this? And they said, for your safety, we don't allow that. Because ultimately, if you took the bottom off of this and allowed printing underneath, you would have a situation where that laser, again, could refract anywhere, and unfortunately, that is a dangerous situation, so they've opted to err on the side of caution. The other issue that I have with this unit comes down to that rotary module. When I was engraving on the mug here, the reason why it's only on the very bottom portion here, and it's actually the aspect of it is a little wrong because I measured based on up here, not down here. The reason why it's on the very bottom is because when I had this fully chucked up in the chuck, that was as high as the laser could go. If I put it into the software, it gives you kind of a bounding box. I'll show some examples here. And that bounding box shows you where you can put items to engrave or to cut. And no matter where I put my item in the bounding box, it cut off at approximately midway up this mug. I reached out to TOOCAA again, said, hey, what's going on with that? They again said it was a safety mechanism. They didn't want to run into a situation where you're potentially cutting or lasering the actual rotary module itself. So because of that, they do have little extension pieces, and because the rotary chuck is reversible, they suggested that I just simply reverse it, push it out a little bit further, and then I should be able to get full coverage on my mug. Not necessarily my favorite answer. I do think that there's some room for improvement there while still maintaining the safety, but ultimately it's their product and their liability, so I can understand why they may want to err on the side of caution. Overall, this thing impressed the crud out of me. It starts out, based on what I've seen on Amazon recently, at around $700 if you just want the basic unit itself with a 10-watt module. When you jump up to the 20-watt module, it gets a little bit more expensive, and then they've got their packages like the Creator package or the there's a home maker package as well, which includes that air filter unit. Those can get up there in price, but I've seen quite frequently some good sales on them, as well as some coupon codes through Amazon. So of course, I'll be listing a link down below. I've really enjoyed this thing. I plan to continue to use it throughout the workshop and throughout my time working on projects here. So you'll see it pop up from time to time. I do have a couple of shorts that are going to come out as well, just because it is a little bit more of a high-end product. I agreed to do a little bit more than just the one video for this guy. So you'll see those. Don't think I'm going to turn into just selling TOOCAA products. This is a one-time dealio because I wanted to give it a shot, and I'm kind of glad I did. So if you want one, check out the links down in the description. Other than that, feel free to hit that like button or subscribe. We'll have some more content coming up very soon. And shortly after that, hopefully some projects where I'm going to incorporate some of these tools that I've unveiled recently. So fingers crossed I'm able to finally get around the hurdle that I've been running into with that. Thank you again so much to TOOCAA for sending me over their TOOCAA Nova 20-watt creator bundle. Really do appreciate it, guys. Again, everything I've said in here is my full and honest opinion. The only thing that they have the ability to say is if I say anything that is wrong as far as factually incorrect. They did send me the product so that I could review it. I do get to keep it afterwards, and again, plan to use it on a lot of different projects, but that doesn't influence what I'm going to say about it. As you guys know, even if I'm keeping a product, I'm pretty open about what I have as far as opinions on a lot of these things.